What's up, everybody? Rob from Healthy You, where we help busy entrepreneurs, executives, high-end professionals crush their insulin resistance, lose weight, and regain their energy. And there's a lot of unhealthy people in the world today, and I don't want you to be one of them, which is why I make these videos. And in today's video, we're going to get into, my nutrition credentials. I get asked this question a lot, and I'm going to answer this in talking about my experience working with medical professionals to help treat my symptoms back when I was 270 pounds and pre-diabetic. And I think my experience is going to resonate with a lot of you, so let's get into it. So let's take you back to when I was first diagnosed with pre-diabetes. I think it's back in 2017 or 2018. I was around 250 pounds at the time, and my weight was continuing to go up. So I was speaking back and forth to the doctor because I really didn't even know what pre-diabetes was. He just told me I wasn't fully diabetic, but I was on my way to being diabetic if I didn't do anything. And I had a family full of type 2 diabetics. I'm like, oh, well, that's not good. So I asked, well, what should I do? And I kind of had an idea, but I wanted to hear like a medical professional give me his answer and ideally a roadmap on what to do. I guess reverse my pre-diabetes, right? That's what we all want. I remember the doctor looking back at me straight in the face and saying, so, well, son, you need to lose weight, and what will help in the meantime is we're going to prescribe you metformin as well as a host of other medications as well. And I was like, okay, I get the lose weight part. Kind of stuck on why I need medication, even though I'm not type 2 diabetic yet. But how do I lose weight? And he simply just told me, you need to eat less. Obviously, I tried that in the past and failed. So I was like, is there any other way I can go about it? And he just said, well, I'm going to prescribe you to a dietitian and they'll help you out more with that. In the meantime, use this medication, and this should help you stabilize your blood sugar or lower your blood sugar. And these were the typical medications. It was metformin along with something else, and I forget exactly the other ones, but it was one for my cholesterol as well, because my cholesterol was very high at the time. And I was like, well, I don't want to stay on medication. I've had several other family members use the same medications and they never got better. So I'm thinking, do you know what you're talking about? Because I question everything. Either way, I followed his advice and I went to the dietitian. So I remember sitting in front of the dietitian, explaining to her my issues, my pre-diabetes, and feeling jaded from the doctor from not really getting an answer on what I can do moving forward outside taking medication. And I remember her expressing to me that, son, we have an answer to what you need to do. It's very simple. You need to eat less calories. And I'm like, well, it's the same thing the doctor told me. And she was like, yes, but here's how you do it. You can't have any carbs and you can't have any fats. All you can eat is protein. If you do that, you're going to be just fine. I was like, excuse me? I was like, yeah, you need to just eat protein. All your plate should be filled with protein and maybe some greens, and that's it. And I was just like, I love meat as much as the next person. But there is no way that I can just stick to eating, a few ounces of meat and like a few pieces of spinach for every meal. And that's essentially what she recommended. So, and this was a person who had a master's degree, heavily credentialed, and telling me that she's worked with a bunch of diabetics before. And I started to think, how many of them were successful doing what you said? Not successful in like they did follow what you told them to do and they lost weight, but it stayed off and their diabetes went away and stayed away. My thought is pretty little. And that experience continued when I talked to different nutritionists, different doctors, different dietitians. All of them recommended very similar versions of the same thing, which is super low calories and cutting out whole food groups. And I remember trying that in the past with different fad diets, and it never worked. It never worked. It would work for a few months, maybe a few weeks, and I'd always fall off, or something would always come up because it was never sustainable for me. So after feeling like the doctors, nutritionists, and dietitians on my health insurance plans couldn't help me, I ventured back into the online world, and I started to work with different online trainers. Unfortunately, I got similar versions of the same thing. They would want me on super low calorie diets, but their spin on it was, you can eat whatever you want as long as it fits your macros. And I said, what does that mean? Oh, as long as you have this amount of protein, fats, and carbs, you'll be fine. So, and they said I could eat whatever I wanted. Whatever I wanted. I remember this with one personal trainer who will go unnamed, big guy who's online. And needless to say, if I know I can eat whatever I want, that's going to be a trap that will snowball for me very quickly. Because the things I naturally want to eat are terrible for me. Hence, it didn't work. And when I talked to other people in the community, they struggled with the same problems that I did, which is they continuously snacked and continuously binge ate because they were already eating a lot of the foods that got them where they are. And it's not that those foods are necessarily bad, it's just the quantity in which you have them. That's kind of what snowballs. So from working with different doctors, dietitians, and online trainers, I started to realize that not that they didn't know what they were talking about, but many of them just didn't have the overall experience of being pre-diabetic, being type 2 diabetic, being severely overweight, having the cravings, having low energy. Many of the people that I talked to, especially in like the online training space, were usually always in shape like their entire lives. They were in shape their entire lives, and they knew how to stay in shape and how to look great, but they didn't know how to really treat my condition. And I noticed the same thing with kind of the dietitians. They obviously knew a little more because they were educated, but their practices I felt were a little either outdated or just not sustainable as well. So this is where I started to think outside the box, and I was like, who can I go to that actually has experience dealing with what I've dealt with? So I started to see different studies online, started to look at like universities that actually studied metabolic health, type 2 diabetes, pre-diabetes, a lot of different things that develop with metabolic syndrome. And I came across several different PhD level practitioners in the DC area, in which I paid out of pocket to go talk to them to try to understand more about what was actually wrong with me and what I needed to do to fix it. And honestly, I got a lot of the best advice and some of the best practices that I still use today. They laid out a roadmap for me, something that I've been looking for. But they told me a lot of things that were kind of counterproductive to the things that I've been told by doctors, dietitians, online trainers, nutritionists. They told me that, Rob, it's not exactly what you ate. It's your lifestyle that got you in this situation. And it's your lifestyle that's going to get you out of it. It's not just what you eat. It's your stress levels. It's your sleep. It's your exercise. It's the way you go about and use and treat food. That's the number one thing that got you in this mess. And that was a light bulb for me. That was a light bulb because that was absolutely true. I was a stress eater, binge eater. I always used food as an outlet for happiness, sadness, stress, everything along those lines, instead of a source for fuel, which is what food is meant for. And they essentially laid out a sort of roadmap for me in terms of, you need to stabilize your blood sugar, and you need to use food in order to do that. So the things that were true were, yes, you do need to eat in a caloric deficit, but you need to structure your food around protein, fats, and healthy carbs. And you just need to eat as much vegetables, protein as you can, and throw in some fats along with there as well. And I remember just starting with that and inputting in 12 to 14 hours of fasting every day. And that was like my first step to sort of sustainable eating moving forward. I remember thinking, I was like, oh, that sounds very similar to what the dietitians told me. Like, no, they're telling you to basically eat nothing but leaves and chicken. You have a lot more variety here, because it's not about necessarily what you eat. It's about how much you eat, when you eat it, and how you eat it. All these things matter. It's a lot more intricate than this is good for you, this is bad for you. Eat this or eat that. There's more that goes on. And that's where I started to realize, okay, I need to talk to more people who have worked with people who've been in my condition or have been in my condition themselves. And that's where I started to talk to a lot of their patients who have seen a lot of progress. And that's where they started to give me a lot of good game on how to actually sustainably put your diabetes or pre-diabetes in remission. And this was super helpful for me moving forward. So if you feel like you're kind of stuck working with doctors or dietitians, look in your local community, see who's actually like lost weight and kept it off. See who's actually worked with diabetics and actually gotten them sustainable results. Look for people who have worked with people who have been in your shoes and have a good track record of getting them results. That's going to be crucial for you moving forward, because a lot of these people online, a lot of these doctors, dietitians, sure, they have good advice and they're very educated. However, they just haven't been in your shoes and they're not used to getting people in our shoes results. Because I remember going back to the doctor after I had lost 80, 90 pounds. And he looked at me and he was like, wow, whatever you're doing, keep doing it. I was like, okay, I'll do that. I'll do that. But anyway, long story short, my credentials come from actually being pre-diabetic, 270 pounds, and losing over 80 pounds and crushing my insulin resistance and working with almost 50 other busy professionals to do the same. So I hope that resonates with you guys, my experience. And if you like this type of content, please smash the like button and comment if you want more of it. And please follow me on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. I post way more on those platforms, especially Facebook and TikTok. So feel free to follow me there. Talk to you soon.